I'm Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And today we're going to be talking about, will my situation get better?
Something we always wonder.
Yeah, we're having a hard time in life. Sometimes it feels like it's never going to end.
Yeah, feels like it's going to be forever.
And a lot of times it does take time before things turn around, right? I've had some difficult times in my life and they didn't turn around right away. And, if you stay motivated and focus on your goals and have a direction, it will get better eventually. And we have a good email coaching today that we're going to go over that kind of shows what we're talking about here. Because this guy, it sounds to me like he was really struggling even before this breakup, right? And so now he's using this to turn his life around. So I think you guys are going to like this one. It's from a guy who's in his early 40s. Now, he already has two children, and his ex is in her early 30s, and she doesn't have any kids. Now, he says they broke up in the beginning of this year, essentially, because after he went to rehab for his drinking.
Okay.
So that tells us a lot. That he had a drinking issue and it was so severe that he had to get help for it, which is great, but that tells us a lot of other things, right?
Right. Normally when there is a substance abuse issue, there is some sort of trauma underlying it. Not all of the time, but most of the time.
When you do get addicted to a substance, it really takes over your life.
It really does. And quitting a substance, especially alcohol, can be difficult because of the withdrawal effects. And so I'm glad that he did receive treatment and was in a center for that, it sounds like.
Yeah. But, it's telling that he wasn't doing so well. He was struggling. And obviously that would have a big impact on his ability to be in a relationship.
Exactly.
Okay. So he says they had been together for a little bit over a year. The breakup came shortly after he had a fight about something small. And being an avoidant, I refused to talk to her. Okay? So that tells you that he struggles in his relationships. He doesn't communicate well. He might be shutting down.
And we also see some stonewalling, which if you know about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, which is basically the 4 signs that means a relationship is headed downhill, stonewalling is one of those.
Yeah.
So the silent treatment.
Yeah, and that's by John Gottman. Okay. Most of our fights ended that way until someone finally apologized. But I believe she is avoidant as well, because she admitted that she has a hard time talking about her feelings. So that'd be interesting, 2 avoidants together. I don't think we see that very often.
That's true, but it does make a lot of sense to me. Because if you're avoidant, you would want somebody who could match the little amount that you could put into a relationship. So it makes sense to me.
But we don't see it very often. She always threw hints about stopping drinking and smoking, but I didn't take it too seriously. And now this is important, right? Because one of the things that I don't think we realize as adults is when our partner tells us something, you really need to quit drinking. They're not going to stand on the rooftop and scream at you like, you have to quit drinking or I'm done. I mean, that gets to that point. But you have to pay attention to your partners when they say little things. Like, hey, we haven't been going on vacation in the last couple of years. They're trying to tell you something. And so you have to be attuned to your partners. Otherwise, you're going to miss big things like this.
Exactly. And a lot of times we're afraid ourselves to broach topics with our partner. And so we might be thinking, I don't want them to think that I'm being judgmental. I don't want them to think that I'm, reprimanding them or anything like that. And so sometimes it can be that a request for them to stop drinking is actually a bigger deal to them than they are even expressing.
Exactly. In other words, they're keeping it bottled up and they're having a hard time telling you. Yeah, absolutely. But so she was giving hints about drinking and smoking, and he didn't take it seriously. And then he said, a lot of times she was right there with me drinking and smoking. Okay, but maybe for her it was, I'll have a drink while you're having 9. Or, you know what I mean? I'm having half a cigarette while you've gone through a pack. You know what I mean? So it's hard to know.
And it could have also been her own personal goal that she felt like she was being enabled in the relationship. And so she wanted you to change. She also wanted herself to change.
Yeah, that's a great point. He says, although she never really did any of that before me, I always felt like I was a bad influence, and that caused me to have some guilt. So kind of what you're saying there. She grew up in a pretty stable family, but her mom was really strict. She told me of a time where she changed her grades on her report card because she was afraid of how her mom would react. Well, that says that things maybe weren't as great, right?
Right.
I mean, as a kid, you kind of feel like, oh, I can't lie to my parents, right? Especially when you're younger. But if you're feeling, if she was feeling like she had to change those grades, it makes me think, was she afraid of the punishment? Was she afraid of how mom was going to react?
And a lot of times when you hear that a parent is strict, it can translate to a parent was abusive. And so be really wary when you hear that word strict. What does that really mean? What was the punishment? Was it in proportion to the action?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to consider that. He says, I grew up in a strict household too, but physically abusive and not much attention because I was the second oldest. All right, so now we know that he was physically abused, which probably is part of the reason that he's drinking. He probably has some trauma there, and, that's oftentimes the result of trauma is a substance abuse.
Exactly.
All right.
And you also see similarities in their histories. Now we find out that her mom is strict, and we also find out that he comes from a strict household. And we find that nothing bonds you closer than sharing trauma histories.
A nice trauma bond.
Yep. So lovely.
All right. There are several factors that I believe caused our disconnection. One being that I bought a townhouse the end of last year, and we decided to do a huge remodel together that left the house in shambles for months. Well, that would be stressful, for sure. Second, my drinking was every day. And there were times where I chose to drink and isolate instead of spending time with her. Yeah, that's a big issue.
Yeah.
Right? Because now he's kind of putting that addiction first and wants to be alone. And so the more she's feeling disconnected, the more she's going to, feel lonely and feel like I'm not happy.
Right. And it sounds like they're in this place between their goals and what they want their life to be versus where they're currently at and dealing with the issues that they are, if that makes sense. It sounds like he made the step to buy a townhouse. In repairing it, now he's struggling.
Yep.
It's like he got halfway there.
He says, my biggest concern is that she was actually married to a woman before me. It's interesting that was his biggest concern.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was thinking, why would that be your biggest concern? We're going to explore that in a minute. She was engaged to a college boyfriend once, but she caught him cheating, so she ended the relationship and eventually met her ex-wife, and they were married for a couple of years. Okay. So she found a woman, was happy, decided to get married. But why is that bothering him so much, right?
This is really important to dissect.
Yeah. When we started dating, she assured me that she wasn't happy being in a gay relationship and didn't really enjoy it sexually. Okay, so maybe in the beginning, she felt really attracted to this woman, was excited, she really enjoyed the connection, she got married, and then afterwards thought, well, maybe that wasn't for me.
Right.
Which is fair, but why is it bothering him so much, right?
I'm also curious as to why that was something that was reassuring, to hear that she wasn't sexually pleased by this other woman.
Well, I think the root of that is his own insecurities.
Fear that she will eventually leave him for a woman.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what was bothering him, that maybe he wasn't adequate enough. And so it was maybe scary for him thinking, oh, she could leave me for a woman. Right?
She could also leave him for a man.
It's true, right? But that's why I'm saying this seems to be more about him than anything with her, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. She also said she wanted to start a family and couldn't do that with a woman. Well, I've got news for you. There are a lot of different ways where you can do that now, right? So that's not exactly true anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe 40 years ago.
Possibly.
But yeah, you can, there are a lot of different options with fertility these days. So, that wouldn't have eased my issue in that any if I was him.
And I wonder if she sensed his anxiety, and so that's why she's, downplaying her own sexuality in order to bring him comfort.
You could be right. That maybe she could see, oh, he's really bothered by this. I should say something.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is why I think this also came out, because this next sentence here is important. However, immediately after she broke up with me, she started dating a girl that she met at her new job. So now it's like the very thing he was afraid of. It's happened. Now she's dating a woman. I can't compete. Maybe that's what he's thinking.
Maybe. And a lot of the comments he made do sound really fearful. It sounds like they're coming from a place of, if you are attracted to women, you can't also possibly be attracted to men. And so,
or me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Me specifically, yeah. And I wonder if she also sensed a lot of that judgment, and that could feel restricting to her. Not feeling fully accepted by your partner and constantly having to reassure your partner, that you really are attracted to them, that you really are there for them. That can be exhausting over time.
I think there would be a small amount of healthy fear in that, of thinking, well, maybe they don't really want to be with somebody. And I think it would be normal to think that to some extent. Right? Because, it is a fact, that they could leave you for the same sex. In this situation, it just felt like it was more about his insecurities than anything that she was doing to make him fearful, if that makes sense.
I agree.
Okay, let me go on. He says, I've been in no contact for about 5 months now, but it's complicated. We're in the reserves together, and we see each other one weekend a month for training. Okay. He says, I've just been staying away, and if I can't avoid her, I am friendly, then walk away. That's fine.
And that's appropriate.
Yeah. I made all the mistakes in the beginning, but for the past 4 or 5 months, I've been focused on personal growth. I'm about 5 months sober. I've completed volumes 1 through 5 of the workbooks, been going to church more, and joined a men's group. Completed the renovation, and I've been talking to a therapist weekly.
This is all great stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I said the title is, will my situation get better?
Exactly.
It's already gotten better, right? I mean, this guy's changed his life. He's done a lot here.
Yeah.
And so you should be proud of the work that you've done, regardless of what happens with her. You're sober, you're in therapy, you're doing the workbooks, you're getting support, you've joined a men's group, you did the renovation of the house. I mean, you've already made your situation better.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of growth there. And I always say, if you were able to get the relationship that you want again now, back then, before all of this growth, imagine what's possible for you now that you're sober, now that you are involved in the community, now that you've restored your house, you've done all the things that you've been wanting to do. Imagine what's possible for you now.
Exactly. And if you continue the work, think about how you'll be in another 6 months.
Yeah.
He says, I really feel like I've addressed a lot of my issues that caused the breakup, but I still miss her and think about her daily. Well, that's normal. That's normal. So I think a lot of people feel like that. So, just know that you're going through a lot of people in the same situation. If she approaches me at work, which she has before, how should I handle that? I feel like she'll never reach out. She said things like, once I hurt someone, I can't go back, and I'm done. What can I do? All right. Well, a lot of times people will say something like that at a breakup. I'm done.
Yeah.
And, they really do mean it at the time, but it doesn't mean they're always going to stay like that. Well, we know that right now she's dating somebody else. And so I don't think she's going to show any romantic interest in him right now because she's exploring it with somebody else. But if that doesn't work out, I could see her approaching this guy and seeing how it goes.
Yeah, I agree. And we do hear exes say things like that all the time. I'm done. We're never getting back together. This is over. I don't want to hear from you again. A lot of people will say a lot of things when they're angry, when they're frustrated, when they're upset. To me, it sounds like this was a very sweet person, a very sweet woman, and it sounds like she did hold some things back, which we know can cause a lot of resentment. Yeah. This is just me reading the situation and speculation, but this is just what I see so far. And so I wonder if that's where some of those comments are coming from. A lot of, I didn't express some of what I felt throughout the relationship, and at this point, I've made my decision. This has gone too far. I've hurt you too much.
Yeah. And this has been too painful, maybe. But I think she's going to approach him at some point after that new relationship ends, whenever that may be. And it may not end, of course. I can't say it will. But I think she'll go over to him and kind of dip her toe in the pool. And I think in that case, you just have to be very casual, you know, be friendly with her. How's it going? It's, you know, kind of almost like giving off like a, hey, stranger vibe. Like, how you doing?
Yeah.
And just say, you know, we should get together and catch up. Go out. Don't take her for a drink. Right? But take her out, have a good time, and show her the changes. Don't tell her. Just show her, let her have a great time with you, and see if that connection can come back naturally.
Exactly. You definitely want to keep things light in the beginning. It does sound like there is a degree of hurt, like you mentioned, and it's going to take some time for her to be able to heal from that. Now, we don't know if this new relationship is a distraction. We don't know how serious things are. We don't know what her relationship with her own sexuality is. Maybe she was really challenged in your relationship and started thinking about things differently afterwards. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the case that you do rekindle things, it would be a conversation to have. And also working on those core insecurities. It did seem strange to me that, you know, the timeline of her reassuring you about things with her sexuality and that she wasn't going to leave you for a woman, then immediately after going with the women, to me, that's too close together. It makes me wonder if those things are related.
Yeah. And so you want to take your time, and you want to make sure that she's more sure of what she wants with her sexuality. And maybe she is sure. Maybe she's just like, I will date a man or a woman. I'm comfortable dating either. And if she is, I would just have the attitude of, well, if you want to date me, great. You know what I mean? Like, you don't worry about her losing interest, whether it be for a man or a woman. It doesn't matter. The more important thing is that you have a great connection with her, so she's not interested in anybody else.
Exactly. And I do think it is an illusion that a lot of people have with bisexual people, with pansexual people, that there's more options, therefore our relationship is threatened more. That's not necessarily the case. Whether you're in a heterosexual relationship where both partners are straight, there is still an amount of risk. So I completely agree with what you said about you want to make sure that you're her best option no matter what her options are.
Yeah. Go back and do the workbooks again. They're going to help you a lot, because you're going to have a lot more aha moments than you did the first time through. You're in therapy, keep it up. All the great things you've been working on, keep it up. I think you're going to hear from this girl again. Not right away. She'll need some time, but I do think probably another 3 or 4 months.
Right.
That would be my guess. But certainly it'll be a lot more likely to happen once she's single, and you want to be ready.
I agree. And I think she would be extremely proud of all your changes too. I'm sure in her mind too, she's probably thinking, where were these changes when we were together?
Yeah.
So be prepared for that type of a response.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so hopefully you found this one helpful. If you want to get our help personally, you can do it on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Victoria is also available.
I'm excited to talk with you.
Just click on her name on the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.